my background, my roots is in the countryside of São Paulo, a city named Garça, where I was one of the main producers of coffee. And my grandma actually was a coffee producer in a small farm, but she was one of the only women in town producing. So for me, it was always really engaging, and the same way being connection with and understanding a little bit of that, the coffee, the growing, but at the same time seeing her as this woman that I was like, oh, she's the first feminist that I've encountered, but without knowing all the names and the, but this example how the power of a woman can exist even in a patriarchal situation, in a patriarchal society. In Lisbon, it was important for me to really look at the history and the layers, right? So when we see like a house, you see layers and layers of paint that have like, and that kind of as a visual way to think about history and everything that passed through. And I think I bring that to the work in terms of trying to understand the layers and the materiality and how the material carries a history with it. And so depending on the project, I make a decision of what material I'm going to use, and that is really important to bring the meaning and to bring trying to understand the history of the object and the material in itself. So living in Chicago was really important for me to understand the history of ornamentation, and in terms of an architectural, and also the transition to the modernism and how that with Mies van der Rohe and the idea of less is more, but also looking a little before that. So I think that history and being with skyscrapers and thinking about new methodologies of construction was also interesting to think about structure and ornamentation and how those two lives together. So then living in New York was one of the places I lived for the most time, for 7 years. The energy of the city, of things happening all the time, and multiple layers of actions and things, and that I think helped to shape my social engagement practice, where how you can connect to people and how you can talk, and in this way, this practice where I have participants into the work. New York was the place that was more open, and people were really open to engage and to get to know the project and engage with that. So I think the people was really strong. Yeah, so the first walks I did was in Chicago, and was a mixture between in the downtown area where more people were passing by, and was in a way of like explaining to people and try to bring people to the work. While in New York, people were really curious about it, and then they would come to me, it's like, oh, what are you carrying it? Are you carrying, because this is the cart that will carry with full of clay, and then people would come, like, oh, are you carrying butter? Is it cake, or what is it? So people are really curious about it. So then people would come to me and then asking questions. So in that way, it was easier in New York because people had an open mind. I think probably because all the history of performances and happenings and things happen in the city, that people were kind of open to new experiences over there. I was invited by the 55project to bring this project to Miami. And in collaboration with Mana Contemporary, so the walks will start from downtown, and then from there we will walk around some important historical places and also places that are in constant change for the future. And in that way, I'm inviting the public to slow down and to have a walk in a city that most people would drive. So it's this other way of perceiving the city in itself, where we can look to details, and each participant will choose a detail, a relief that they can capture in clay. So participants will be able to bring the clay with them, so that will work as a souvenir from the city where they choose to capture. That have artists and philosophers that have been inspiring me. I think the big ones will be Hélio Oiticica and Lygia Clark with their new concretism. In a way, they're thinking about how art and the viewers becomes all together in terms of the participants. So those are a really big influence. Pablo Elguera, he's a Mexican living here in New York, and he writes a lot about how the idea of art education and art coming together in the social engaged practice. So it's something that I've been thinking a lot through this social engaged projects, in a way how to engage the public to be part of the artwork.